We are going to be doing a harmonic energy update today. We're going to get started with the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread. We already have one card that is stuck to the table. It's bottom of the deck. I'm not surprised to see that type of energy right now. Can I please have the second card today? First 2 cards in our 5-card spread for today are our 4 of Swords in its upright, in combination with our King of Cups in its reversal. So what are we effectively seeing that's occurring right now with the 4 of Swords in its upright and the King of Cups in its reversal? This is continuing to work through the situations or circumstances by way of understanding and defining how we ourselves navigate the space or the realm of our emotions. I just want to kind of continue to articulate this right now. We've got a lot of different things that are happening energetically, okay? There are several different things there's a lot going on right now. First and foremost, we are going through an Aquarius season where there are many planets in Aquarius, and also working through the fact that we still have one very significant planet that is still in retrograde. Now, one of the benefits, there are some beneficial things that have happened in the context of the last week or so that is going to help recognize and understand the force of intention by which we are working to resolve and heal things. One of the things that we see right now is Uranus has come out of retrograde, which can often create a lot more of those feelings of things changing very quickly. However, we also recognize the fact that Neptune has moved into Aries. So this can often create modalities by which we can be very quick to have energetic feelings of frustration coming through, being very, very conscientious right now with one's own reactivity. Okay, that is something that we want to be very, very conscientious about. And the reason that we're effectively seeing this at this time is being able to effectively understand that when we are navigating through circumstances or situations, we allow the effect of understanding that healthy communication helps each other recognize and identify the force of intention by which we are able to articulate why something is energetically important to us. And it's a continuation of understanding, okay? Everybody is experiencing this right now, okay? You are not, if you feel, right? If you feel like you are getting energetically frustrated because there's a lot of emotions and not enough time to energetically express them, I want you not to move quicker. I want you to be more energetically patient with yourself, okay? Proportion Proportion and patience is how we effectively navigate through a lot of experiences by which a lot of things are happening. And the reason I say this right now, and I'm going to keep on articulating this, when we were going through that retrograde season, I kept on doing readings for was asking me, when is this retrograde going to end? And I said, it's going to end, but when it ends, we also have to be conscientious, because the other thing that we have to understand is we have a very, a very, very emotional eclipse season coming up. Okay. We've got a new moon in Pisces that is coming up in about 2 weeks. Okay. And working through that is allowing the space. Like, this is not the time to energetically procrastinate in relationality to navigating through circumstances or situations, especially where feelings are concerned, right? The ability to effectively get ahead of oneself isn't, to a certain extent, right? When we get ahead of ourselves in the best way possible, we can energetically anticipate. So I feel like that's a lot of those experiences or situations by which we see, right? And you may even be feeling like this a bit, right? We don't talk enough about like the energetic feeling that often occurs before we move into eclipse cycles, right? It can feel like it can create, like, I want to describe this right now. It can create a lot of that feeling of energetic anticipation within us. And again, if you carry a lot of anxiety, sometimes it can do a real number on it. So understanding that the resolution for anxiety is effort. right? Being able to effectively work through the context of being able to identify and see the progress that you have made, right? Allow this to be the space by which you're allowing that progressive thinking to stabilize upon any of the feelings of energetic overwhelm that you're potentially feeling at this time. Now, this is having a different impact depending on where you are on the frequency cycles. And we're going to start first by talking about the energy that is in solitude. Because one of the big things that we saw that happened recently is we recognized that there was an energetic shift that occurred, specifically and particularly for energy that is in solitude. And it effectively occurred right around the time that we experienced that Capricorn new moon energy. Now, the one thing you have to recognize, and I like to point this out, we sometimes get those modalities of being able to understand, right, the precursor, right? And I want to describe this right now. Like the Capricorn new moon energy that we experienced just about a week or so ago, like was like or a couple of few weeks ago, was a precursor to what we could potentially expect to feel as we move towards that new moon energy in Pisces. It's starting off eclipse season. It's going to feel a lot like a full moon. So there could be that modality by which it feels like there's a lot happening, but being able to effectively feel fortified is how we are able to articulate and identify how to effectively move forward. Now, one of the things that we see right now for a lot of those relationships, and this is specifically speaking towards those world partnerships, and the reason we keep on identifying the energy right now as world relationships is because they're focusing a lot on the work that we see articulated upon the world card in the tarot. And the world card in the tarot talks to us about healthy, interconnected relationships, right? It's the work that we do to heal any feelings of codependence. It's a continuation of understanding. And this is what we talk about in relationality to why it's so important to find one's bliss. Because if you're not in a happy space, right? There's no relationship that's going to bring you joy, right? The beauty of a manifestation goal is joy as you go, joy on the journey, right? The joy that we find on the journey of a manifestation goal is exactly proportional to the amount of joy that we find when we arrive into a manifestation. So this is a lot of the energy in solitude that is working into the context of building into, right, the healthy, centered in self point of view, which is the understanding of recognizing the proportionality by which we energetically prioritize our bliss, but not the modality by which we overreach with our bliss. The healthy bliss that is effectively the identification of the joy that we feel for ourselves that we eagerly expand or extend to those around us, right? This is how we build into healthy energetic relationships. So we see two different modalities that may potentially be occurring right now for energy that is working on healing in this capacity. We see a lot of energy that is working upon deeply invested in finding their joy, right? And holding their joy energetically preciously. But even in the modality by which they're having more confidence in speaking upon it to others, right? The joy that they energetically express to themselves and the world around the self. I keep on seeing that these are energies that are coming to each other, right? And I want to describe it even in the space, right? This is what we can expect with a little bit of that full moon energy in Leo, right? The understanding that the way that we come towards each other in confidence is navigating through our fear, right? That often we find confidence, and that's the disparity with confidence. Confidence is what we do with our fear, right? Some energy comes with it. Some energy comes with it. Some energy works through it. And this is often what we see, and I like to point this out. This is often identified with why those who see Leos often misunderstand Leo placements, right? Leos don't arrive with confidence. I know you might, and if you've ever seen a confident Leo, that's a Leo that is doing, like, the act of confidence in a Leo is always the compassion by which they expand to the world around them, right? That's the beauty of understanding the Leonine journey, right? Leos don't Leos don't arrive with confidence. They find confidence in the space by which they feel like they extend that to others, right? And so we see that this is a lot of the energy kind of working through that modality or capacity, the understanding that confidence is a compassionate act, right? And when we reorient onto the identification point that confidence, the confidence that we bring to each other is the compassion that another person receives, right? Like when we think about confidence in that modality, how does it energetically change things, right? The modality of understanding that that is the extension of our love. And so I feel like that is what we see that a lot of the energy is doing right now, that is either building into the space of, I keep on saying, the energy in solitude that says every day a little challenge in my confidence, right? Every day a little challenge in my confidence, because often that's how we gain confidence in things, right? That proportionate space by which we do something that energetically thrills us, but thrills us because it allows us to find the confidence to be able to do something in a way that feels like it's energetically strengthening, right? While we see that some of these new relationships that are coming together right now, this is a lot of the energy that's working into that same modality, potentially articulating to each other and saying, I taking a little bit of that energetic sense of thrill and being able to find their confidence to be able to articulate what it is that they're looking for in relationship. Because here's the true thing. This is why it's so important that we get into the space by which we find the confidence to articulate what it is that we desire, right? Because here's the truth of it. The ability to speak confidently towards what you care about is an act of protection, right? It is the modality by which, and this is why we navigate rejection, because the unhealthy relationship is not the relationship that aspires one to be confident, right? And the modality by which the energy understands and recognizes that that confidence that we bring to things helps us to see things, right? It helps us to recognize and observe rejection differently. Right? Because when we see our confidence as the work that we do to be compassionate to those around us, and when we recognize that our confidence is an act of compassion, if someone rejects us in the modality of experiencing that compassion, then it's not something that speaks towards any kind of lack space in us, but rather the lack space that we're experiencing in another in misperceiving it. And so that's why I keep on seeing that this is a lot of the energy that is feeling fortified in the context of navigating others' rejection, because that is the sound, right? Like that is the sound of finding one's own sense of profoundness, the modality by which it's not that it doesn't affect us, but that we perceive it in a way that it allows us to be able to identify that it speaks more towards the energy outside of the self in unless, right? And this is the important thing, the navigation in relation to whether there's something that we could do that would energetically change something, right? And this is what's beautiful about it. Healthy relationship is always articulated upon conversation, right? It's the modality by which we're able to articulate to each other that builds healthy ground. Now, this brings us to, right? For the center card of today's spread, and this is going to be moving us into those moon relationships. And these are the relationships that were coming together between the time of that Capricorn new moon energy that we experienced up until Uranus stationing direct that happened in the fall. Can I get one card to clarify, please? The Lover's card in its reversal. So let's talk a little bit about this Lover's card in its reversal, because I don't necessarily mind seeing the Lover's card in its reversal in this context, because the Lover's card in its reversal often speaks towards, right, the modality by which we work to absolve and resolve our own feelings of inadequacy, right? And this is what often happens. And this is what's interesting, because the modality by which we navigate our own feelings of inadequacy help us to understand and fortify upon what it is that we're trying to do that would allow us to build into the sense of being energetically stronger, right? And this is what's beautiful, because I keep on getting healthy relationships, right, are often the space by which we build intimacy by holding each other's feelings of energetic inadequacy, right? Right, and this is what's beautiful, like, often we talk about the fact that the most compassionate, caring person you often meet is often wrestling perpetually with their own feelings of energetic inadequacy because it's the modality by which we recognize and understand that that is the amplification of the love that we express, that we hope to extend to the world around us, right? Those modalities or those abilities by which we find the means to be able to energetically articulate something that feels like it is indefinable within us. And so I want to describe, and this is a little bit of the difficulty right now, right? A lot of the intensity that we're often feeling, and I like to point this out, this can often happen by when we're going through an Aquarius season, when we have so many planets, so many planets that are currently in Aquarius. Okay, we've got Pluto in Aquarius, we've got Mars in Aquarius, we've got Venus in Aquarius, we've got Mercury in Aquarius. So it is the modality of understanding that there's a lot going on. But here's what's beautiful about it. When we're stabilized in the self, there can be a lot going on and we can still be energetically strong, right? We don't feel the overwhelm that makes us feel energetically collapsed because, and this is what we understand, often the feeling of overwhelm is expressive to an expansion process, right? Right, the modality by which, like, I keep on seeing this, the modality by which, and this is why we always have to be very conscientious in relationality to what we bring forth to the world around us, right? Because the modality by which we effectively navigate or work through our own energetic capacity is often the articulation of being able to expand further, right? And so I feel like for a lot of the energy working through those modalities or experiences, right? And this is what I keep on seeing, right? The modality, and I like to describe this. Um, the universe is eager for those that effectively aspire for more, right? Because right, the modality by which we effectively work through things, right, is the modality by which we effectively recognize or we feel our own sense of energetic capability. And so I think that one of the things that we see right now for a lot of these temperance relationships, I mean these moon relationships, is like I want to describe this. These relationships that are coming together right now, and I want to just explain to you the differences to help you understand or help to orient in relationality to where you might be. These moon relationships are very energetically they're like I want to describe the relationships that we see that are happening right now in the capacity of the world is building into the proportionality. There's this energetic like confidence by which they're effectively building into, which is pushing into the space of their own capacity, right? Like they're getting better. They're getting better at taking on more, right? While for the energy of the moon relationships, these are relationships that are built upon the energetic firmament of partnership. I see these energies right now that are working tirelessly, and I need to stress this, they're working tirelessly outside of partnership. And this is why they care about each other so much, right? Because the modality by which, right? I feel like the modality by which these moon relationships are able to come together, by which another person sees and recognizes the force of intention by which energy is trying to put forth, right? And does not build into the sense of condescension, right? The modality by which the energy understands and appreciates the force of intention that creates the space of another person working tirelessly. I keep on seeing that these are the relationships that build into the firmament of relationship because this is the energy that articulates in terms of the fact of the healthy relationship, the stability of a relationship. The health of a relationship is often and sometimes articulated not by how much effort you have to put into it, but by how healthy it is because you don't have to worry about it. is what I keep on seeing. And I remember I said that these relationships were the relationships where they were giving each other the gift of peace, right? The modality by which they effectively articulate and build into that appreciation, because I keep on seeing they recognize and identify the energetic gift of the relationship, but in the modality by which they don't feel like they need to right? They don't feel like they need to over amplify into it in order to effectively recognize that it's energetically healthy. Now, this is bringing us towards those temperance relationships. And those temperance relationships were effectively coming together between the time of Uranus stationing direct, which happened in September 18th to be specific, up until the solstice period, which was due June 21st of last year. Two cards to get clarification there, please. And we have here we've got here the Queen of Swords in its upright in combination with the Wheel of Fortune in its upright. And so I want to describe what we're effectively seeing here. And I want to really I really want to articulate upon this, because I feel like there's something we're seeing there that is very energetically important. And what we're seeing that feels like it's important is the modality by which the energy is able to effectively, I keep on hearing, building into the context of what feels energetically fortifying or what feels energetically stabilizing. I just keep on seeing that for a lot of that energy, that ability to be able to articulate upon, and I like this so much because for a lot of these temperance relationships right now, these are relationships that and I just want to show you like the difference that we're seeing in terms of the energy right now, right? These temperance relationships, like these two cards, I want to describe this right now. Like there's a lot of that energy that is effectively almost it's like working into the capacity of being able to articulate or amplify what feels important, but not just what feels important, right? The modality by which the energy is finding that force of confidence is what I keep on getting. And I want to describe this too, because I don't know why I keep on hearing this for these temperance relationships, but it says confidence and competence. Right? What do we mean by confidence and competence? Confidence and competence is the understanding, and we need to point this out, the modality by which we are able to articulate and identify what our vulnerability is that makes us stronger within it, right? One does not, the ability of understanding, like the ability of understanding strength is often most articulated by being able to recognize and understand the full shape of the self is what I keep on seeing, right? This can often articulate upon the gift, and this is what I keep on hearing, the understanding of the self that often creates the feeling of a centered individual, right? Because when we are energetically centered in ourselves, we know the shape of ourselves, right? we know we know the modality by which we effectively navigate things, right? And that's what's beautiful about that, because for a lot of energy, and I want to describe this even now, like there's something really significant and important in relationality to working through things. But I keep wondering, it's not just the modality by which the energy works through things, but it's the modality by which another person understands and builds into. And I keep on getting this. Like this is energy that spends a lot of time speaking, like working into the context of one's own integrity. And let's talk about, like, we don't talk enough about what integrity means. And here's the thing about it, and this is why you can't fake integrity. Like that's the funny thing about integrity. You can't fake it because because integrity is the modality by which we understand, right? By which we understand the work that we do in order to effectively arrive towards things, right? And what's hard about it is, and we kind of see this often, the experience by which we amplify or articulate upon what it is that we're trying to do is often the amplification. And I keep on getting this, right? The modality by which we energetically support each other, right? And this is what I love about this energy, because this is the energy that often feels like the energy in partnership that often feels that they know, like, remember when I talked about that those moon relationships often working through their own feelings of inadequacy. The feeling of inadequacy is often the best fortifier of energy that's in its integrity, right? Because it's the modality by which we work through the space by which we hope to do something better is often the amplification in terms of how much we energetically care about things, right? And I feel like this is something that is important for a lot of those temperance relationships, right? It's the modality of understanding or recognizing what feels productive. And the modality of moving through productivity is often the space by which we're not too energetically hard on ourselves. Because you have to understand that in the modality by which we're constantly perfecting, right? The modality of understanding, the qualifying space by which we create, but often feeling like something is not perfect, is often the space by which another person can't see, right? What we feel energetically inadequate upon, right? And so that's what I keep on getting, that a lot of the energy is articulating to each other, right? The modality or the experience by which they say, don't let perfect stand in the way of your excellence, right? Because the ability to understand and recognize that often the feeling of energetic completeness is the modality by which, like I keep on hearing, like we build into it and we articulate and say, right? Like we look towards something holistic that allows us to be able to accomplish. I keep on hearing like there's a lot of that work that we see that is building upon conversations in relationality to, right? Identifying through, I keep wondering, identifying through the inadequacy of completion, but also the energy that recognizes and understands that that is also what happens as we move through accomplishment, right? Because often it's the space by which we feel the energetic accomplishment that is already somewhat behind what we can energetically do at the moment, is what I keep on hearing. Now, this brings us to the Four of Swords in its upright in combination with that King of Cups in its reversal. Moving back towards the energy and solitude right now, one card to clarify, High Priestess in its reversal. So let's talk a little bit about this High Priestess energy that we're seeing in its reversal, because, and this is what we often articulate in relationality to, and I want to describe this right now. For a lot of this energy in solitude, I keep on hearing that for a lot of the energy facilitating or working through those experiences, that modality of being patient, right? Like the work that we do in relationality to finding patience is often the fact, but I keep on seeing the patience that we find in things is something that we effectively identify within us. And I want to just show you the two cards that we see right now in solitude to show you the difference of what these energies are effectively doing differently as they build into relationships right now. Because we have a lot of that work that we're seeing. Now we see that we've got the High Priestess energy here in its reversal. We've also got the King of Cups in its reversal. And this is what's beautiful about these energies that are in solitude, right? This is the energy that recognizes that when we're working towards, right? And this is what's really important. Often often when we move towards a healthy manifestation goal, it's the identification that we often create the misconception that there's something that we need to do more, rather than identifying something that we need to do less, right? And this is what we see that this energy is effectively getting better at, because here's the thing about it, right? The modality, and this is what we articulate, like look what these two energies are working through, and they're very much in the same modality, right? And it's different for masculine or feminine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what one feels most aligned to, right? This is a lot of the continuation of the reading that we did yesterday that articulates upon the fact that the capacity by which we are connected, right? The compassion we give to our emotions is directly proportional to how much consideration we give to others, right? Others' emotions. Right? This is the difference between disassociation and non-attachment because the modality of feeling our emotions allows us to get stronger within them. But the hard part is often those who are very strong in feeling their emotions are misinterpreted as being detached from them. But you can usually tell the difference between somebody in a disassociative state versus a non-attached state because they can talk about their feelings. This is why it's so important to talk about feelings because the only way you can tell the difference often between someone who is in a non-attachment space, right? The space by which they have effectively found a way to navigate through their emotions, by which the emotions don't effectively don't override their own intention versus someone disassociating is our ability to articulate upon how we're feeling, right? That modality of being able to articulate upon the emotions, we see that this is a lot of the masculine that's articulating and saying, I need to be able to articulate upon my emotions because if I'm in a space by which I'm feeling them and I've overcome them, but I'm still feeling them, others don't know they're there unless I'm energetically expressing them, right? Because this is and while for feminine, we see that this is a lot of the feminine that's also doing that work, but this has more to do with the feminine expressing upon the emotions with healthy directions attached to them, right? The modality of the feminine that articulates and says that when one is doing the work effectively, we don't just articulate upon how we're feeling, but we recognize that the feelings that have directions attached to them feel like an easement point to those around the self. So we see, right? Like this is what we like to see because these energies are kind of going through, right? Like this is like an incubation energy, right? The modality by which they're working through their energetic feelings and articulating upon them so that they continue to get stronger within them in partnership. And so for some of this energy, it's doing that in solitude right now. And for some of the energy, it's actually doing the hard work of stepping out. You see that? Stepping out of their comfort zone in order to communicate as like my throat chakra is getting cleared. Continuing to get clarification, right? We're moving towards the King of Cups in its reversal in combination with that Lover's card energy in its reversal. Can I get one card to clarify, please? We've got here the Nine of Cups in its upright. So what are we effectively seeing with the Nine of Cups in its upright? For a lot of the energy right now, that Nine of Cups in its upright, and I like to articulate this, particularly for those moon relationships. The thing about these moon relationships is, and I want to describe this, like if I had to figure out action words for these three energies right now, for those world relationships, I'm seeing confidence, right? For the moon relationships, I'm seeing firmament, right? For the temperance relationships, I'm seeing competence. And so for a lot of these moon relationships, I just keep on seeing like this is the energy. I need to describe this. Like this is the energy that finally feels. I keep on hearing this is really and now I'm trying to like it's interesting too because even as I'm trying to articulate this, it's moving into kind of the heart space. For a lot of the moon energy, I can almost see the energy saying like trying to find the words to energetically articulate upon how they feel about upon each other because I keep on getting that ability, right? That ability, I keep on hearing that ability of finally being in a relationship by which another person doesn't take another person's work as an affront is what I keep on hearing. Someone who does not take another person's busyness as an affront, but as an expression of their own energetic love is what I keep on seeing. Like I feel like this is a lot of the energy that builds into the feeling of confidence because they're in relationship with another person that shares their passion. And what's beautiful about that is when I see the fact that they articulate the fact that they say that they share their passion, it's the passion to effectively, right? The passion to effectively articulate, right? The passion to effectively bring forth, right? So there's a lot of, I feel like for a lot of those moon relationships, it's a continuation of recognizing passion and enthusiasm that allows the context by which, like working into the space by which they're healing, particularly and especially if these are relationships by which another person used to take their passion and enthusiasm as personal slight, is what I keep on seeing, right? So there's a lot of this energy here. I just keep on seeing like there's a lot of this energy here. Then this is beautiful, right? Because what's happening? What do we see that the energy in solitude is doing? They're finding a way to be confident. Do you see how the frequencies affect each other? What is the gift? What is the gift that the energy coming into union is receiving? The confidence of counterpart, right? And this brings us to the energy that is deep within union right now, those temperance relationships. Clarification between the Lover's card in its reversal and the Queen of Swords. The Ace of Cups in its upright. And so I like to see the Ace of Cups. I like to see the Ace of Cups in its upright here because the Ace of Cups, I need to point this out. The Ace of Cups isn't it, and I know it's funny because it's okay. The Ace of Cups in its upright is often the ability, right? It's often working through the ability to heal um, through our own misconceptions, is what I keep on getting. And there's something really beautiful that I see that's happening with some of those temperance relationships. And this is what we often articulate upon when and this is why I keep wondering, this is why we work to clear insecurity within us, right? Insecurity insecurity will act as a hurdle because it's the modality by which, right? The modality by which another person gives us something and we energetically question something that feels like it's something positive or supportive towards us, right? And this is what I keep on seeing in terms of those temperance relationships. This is what I meant about some of those temperance relationships working to heal right now, but working to heal in the context, right? And I want to describe this. Trauma gives us false promises, right? The modality by which, and I keep on getting this, like when I articulate some of the trauma that some of these temperance relationships are working through, right? The trauma, I keep wondering, the trauma of an energetic false promise is often the modality, and you can usually tell, right? You can usually tell that this is the energetic case when one is working through a traumatizing circumstance or situation. Um, because it's the modality or the experience by which we ourselves articulate or work through the shape of being able to recognize or define what feels energetically important. But even in the modality by which we articulate or we signify upon that importance, it allows the modality by which we ourselves are able to energetically expand upon it. And what I keep on seeing there is the consideration that this energy gives in effectively helping one another is all I keep on seeing, right? There's a lot of this, I feel like there's a lot of this beautiful energy that we see is recognized there. And I keep on getting the recognition of being able to articulate or to effectively navigate, like helping us find our energetic center, but not just helping us find our energetic center, but being able to effectively feel the space of always working towards getting better, right? I feel like this is a lot of the energy that is almost working through this space of articulating to each other the full intensity in relationality to how much one energetically appreciates that work, right? And I like to point this out because I feel like there's something really important that I see in those temperance relationships, which has to do, right? It has to do with being able to fully recognize and understand the shape of how much, like, and I like to point this out, right? Like, these relationships know each other's trauma to such an extent that they almost see, right? This is why they don't hold their triggers against each other personally, because it's a modality by which they also understand the force by which they understand the space by which the trauma was formed in the first place, right? And so that's what I keep on seeing, because it's almost like the modality by which the energy is perpetually in a space by amplifying the safety that they feel for one another. But even in the modality, and I keep on hearing, this is what's so hard about the trauma that we carry. We can be in a space by which we know that we're energetically safe, but we still feel energetically triggered, right? It works through the fact that if trauma was as easy to let go of, it wouldn't be trauma. We just do some trauma we never heal from entirely. We just get better at recognizing it within us, right? And that allows the context of being able to heal it. That's what we often talk about with the journey of Chiron. Now, this brings us back towards the energy in solitude, moving back towards, again, we're going to look here towards that Queen of Swords energy in combination with the Wheel of Fortune. Can I get one card to clarify, please? Clarification coming through right now with the Six of Swords in its upright. So let's talk a little bit about that Six of Swords energy. There's a lot of, like, look, there's a lot of swords energy on the table right now. And let's be clear about that Six of Swords energy, right? The Six of Swords energy that we're effectively seeing here is, and this is what I need to point out, right? The space by which we understand the weight by which we carry things is where we don't like where we understand and recognize that we don't harbor anything, right? Like, that's what's so beautiful, right? Like, this is a lot of the energy that I see. Like, this is what I keep on getting is a gift for a lot of that energy in solitude right now that's building into healthy relationship, right? It's the modality of, I keep on seeing harbor-free territory, right? And why do I keep on hearing harbor-free territory? Because it's the modality, like, here's what we talk about, like harboring is an arbor by which, and this is the thing about it, right? When you harbor something, it will ruin your manifestation goals, okay? Because when you're harboring on something, you're dwelling upon it. And when you're dwelling upon it, you're not thinking about creating, right? You're moving towards the energetic frustration. And so this is why, and I keep on hearing it, this is not the journey of saying that we let go of everything, right? But it's the understanding that when we feel the sense of carrying an emotion, right? It should point us in a direction, right? A healthy emotion points us in a better direction, is all I keep on hearing. A healthy emotion points us in a better direction because it shows us what we need to energetically do in order to effectively work through things, right? And so this is what I keep on getting for a lot of this energy in solitude, understanding that healthy emotions point us in the right direction. Right? It's the modality by way and by means of understanding and recognizing the sense or the space by which we articulate or expound upon something that we ourselves are healing through, but not just the space by which we're working to heal it, the space by which we understand and we recognize what feels, right? What feels energetically positive and productive is what also creates the aspect of energetic restoration. And so I feel like the thing about this is I would not be surprised if some of these energies in solitude right now are healing from situations by which it felt like another person, like, and this is what happens when we're when we're in the space by which we're not recognizing the health of our feelings, right? We're coming out of that Jupiter in where we still have Jupiter, we have that Jupiter in retrograding in Cancer energy, right? And I keep on seeing heightened sensitivity requires strength to be able to articulate to another why something is energetically important to us, right? It's the modality by which, and this is what happens, like the space by which we communicate what could be better is often the ability that we give each other the tools that we need to arrive to better outcomes, right? And so I feel like I see that for a lot of the energy working through this, having to effectively navigate situations by which they effectively potentially desired to stay in relationship, but they didn't see the mutual effort in terms of being able to recognize the work that needs to be shared in order to fix something, right? I keep on hearing that is a lot of the energy. That is why the energy is in solitude in the first place. Because I keep on hearing the energy is in solitude in the first place, not due to a lack of effort, but recognizing, right? Like recognizing, and this is what we talk about, right? There are those that articulate a desire for relationship, but if you are not if you understand that the ideal relationship, the best relationship that you've ever experienced will make you feel things that you've never felt before, but you're not energetically prepared to deal with those emotions, it can often create a vibration of someone who moves away from relationship because they say that they need to work something out and then tries to come back to it and say articulate that they're ready to work on the relationship again, but it's a modality by which they're not ready to be in relationship. They keep on entering the space by which they're letting their feelings settle down, right? So it's like the energy that's basically saying that they don't have the emotional capacity to navigate the relationship. And this is why we work towards, right? This is why we work towards building into understanding and building into the context of our emotions, because it's that ability of feeling strong, to feel things that we've never felt before, that often allow us to arrive into the relationship that is the best relationship that we've ever experienced, because it's like all of the new emotions come up. We don't say what's happening. We say great. We say, "Oh, good," right? "Oh, wow, amazing." Energetic transformation, right? The expansion point. And this is what we understand. Healthy relationships expand us, right? They make us feel things that we haven't felt before. And our own ability of feeling energetically stable as we expand allows us to effectively arrive into the space of welcoming expansion. So I feel like this is a lot of the energy that's getting more confident, feeling uncomfortable, right? But recognizing, I keep on hearing the uncomfortability that predicates new energetic emotions or new feelings, right? And so this is what I keep on seeing for a lot of that energy, right? Uncomfortability often predicates new energetic feelings. So that's why we see that this is the energy again, not, and I want you to be clear, this doesn't mean staying. Don't misunderstand me. This does not mean staying in uncomfortable situations. I'm not saying that, okay? I'm not saying staying in uncomfortable situations. I'm saying the ability to feel energetically, to navigate one's own uncomfortability, but recognizing it as the welcoming of new energetic opportunity, like the space of navigating new opportunity to be able to be in the expansion point of being able to be more energetically vulnerable, right? And this is what I keep on seeing in terms of the energy, like work, like basically a long-winded way of saying that they're learning to energetically open up more, right? That's what we mean. Continuing to get clarification, and we're moving back towards that energy. We're moving back towards the energy. This is specifically These are specifically the moving back towards those moon relationships. Clarification between the high priestess in its reversal and the nine of cups in its upright. Hard to clarify, please. We've got here the Empress card. Oh my goodness. Here's the thing about it. We got to talk a little bit about this. Whenever we got this sitch here, this little sitch that we always get, with like the high priestess in its reversal. This little situ we often get with the High Priestess in its reversal and the Empress card in its upright. And I'm gonna speak specifically, and I feel like in a way I just need to amplify that this feels like a very feminine forward message. So I'm just gonna talk a little bit about feminine energy here for a minute because I have to express there's a lot of feminine energy on the table. And we often see this because there was a day last week where we had like 3 different king cards on the table. So there was a lot of masculine unpacking that we were seeing there, bearing in mind this is not based on gender but what one feels most aligned to. This is a lot of empathy that we're seeing, and it's happening across the energy in relationality to the wild, I keep on hearing, the wild imposition that is often placed on feminine energy. And let's talk about the wild imposition that is often put on feminine energy. And the reason it's coming up so strong too is because healthy masculine understands this, right? What is the wild imposition? And we were talking about this yesterday in yesterday's reading. What is the wild imposition that is often placed upon feminine, right? The modality by which energy demands that feminine be vulnerable and then condemns feminine when they're not vulnerable in the way that another person demands them be vulnerable, right? Make it make sense, right? It's the vulnerability paradox that we often put feminine energy in, right? The modality by which it's like it's continually like the balancing act in relationality of another person's expectations of one's own vulnerability. Masculine does not ever have to go through this to a certain extent, right? And this is what's wild about it. For a lot of masculine energy, the more vulnerable you are, right? Like, oh, oh my God, look, a vulnerable masculine. You know? But the modality, and this is the thing about it, right? The feminine often has to go through that modality of understanding that you will be doing everything, trying to be everyone for everyone, having to be different modalities for everybody. Have to be this vulnerable for this person, have to be this vulnerable for this person, have to be this vulnerable for this person, have to be not vulnerable for that person. And somebody will effectively then articulate and say, oh, you're energetically duplicitous. Right? Like the it's the understanding, right? It's the understanding of the modality of a world that often articulates and says, just be vulnerable, and feminine being like, as if, right? Because what is the first condemnation point that feminine literally gets the wacky modality of being like, be more vulnerable, be more vulnerable. You know what? That happened. You know why? You were too vulnerable. Yeah, I bet you felt, yeah, you shouldn't have been so vulnerable, right? And then you wonder why you find feminine so frazzled, and then you wonder, and then you go, I don't know what happened. Yeah, I don't know. The circuit board's all messed up. The circuit board, I don't know what happened there. Right? It's the modality by which we recognize that we don't do that to one another, right? And when we understand, right? When we understand the capacity, right? And this is what we talk about the journey of empathy. We don't need to experience. We don't need to experience something to have empathy for another person's energetic journey. And this is why it's so important that we're emotionally connected, right? Because the emotional connection does not require us to be in another person's position in order to understand it. But it's the understanding of saying imagination, the ability to imagine and say, what must that feel like to be in a modality by which everybody says, be more vulnerable. You know, you're supposed to be more, you know what? You know, you gotta be more vulnerable. Not like that. Not like that. Be more vulnerable. You know what? Have you tried being more vulnerable? Have you tried being more vulnerable? Not like that. Not like that, right? And this is a lot of the feminine that's effectively articulating that or working through that. And also a lot of the masculine that's potentially understanding and recognizing that valuation point as well, right? The capacity of being able to understand, right? And this is what I keep on seeing in a lot of these relationships, right? I keep on seeing that these are counterparts that are working into the modality. And this is what we keep on seeing. And this is why we don't look, right? Healthy relationship is not the place by which we go to get fixed, right? And if you look at relationship, if you're in the modality by which you're navigating something and you say, you know what, everything is terrible right now, but you know what would fix me? The right relationship? No, my friend, my sweet son or child, I have to tell you something. That is not the case because you effectively enter, right? You find yourself where you energetically are. And if you feel energetically displaced in your current experience, there is no relationship by which you will feel energetically centered. We bring the feeling of centering with us into partnership. We do not find it there. So I feel like that's a lot of the energy that's potentially working through this right now in the capacity of being able to articulate to another. And I keep either seeing, right, a lot of energy that is building into, and we're never perfect about that, right? We're never energetically perfect. But I feel like this is a lot of the energy that's either working right now in this period in solitude, right? And they're very energetically focused on their own contentedness because contentedness helps us find the right relationship because the right relationship is not this relationship that helps us find contentment. It's the space by which we expand upon the contentment that we've already arrived to with ourselves. So we see that that's a lot of the energy that's potentially finding that within, or articulating that, right? And then this is the hard part, right? I see like some of these relationships these are some of these partnerships that are coming together and they're feeling the anxiety of understanding that the right relationship either fortifies or damages our own contentedness. And so this is why I see that these relationships are building into, right? They're taking very patient approaches as it relates to coming into partnership. This brings us back to those moon relationships. And you'll remember those moon relationships they took a while, didn't they? Clarification between our Nine of Cups in combination with the Ace of Cups. And I like to point this out. One of my favorite combinations. You want to see one of my favorite you want to see one of my favorite combinations in the tarot? I love this. My favorite combination, right? Why do I love this? This is my favorite combination in the tarot right here. You can screenshot that. Why? Got that nine, you got that sweet Nine of Cups, and then you got that Ace of Cups. What is that? That's a 10. That's a 10. That's a new 10 right there, right? Clarification for those moon relationships. Nine of Cups with the Ace of Cups. Two cards coming out. Two cards coming out. We got here Two of Wands and the Chariot card, right? And what do we effectively see that's happening there, right? And this is what we have to understand, right? This is what we work through. And this is what I love about these moon relationships that we see coming together, right? The understanding, right? And this is giving me like a little work with what you got kind of energy is what I keep on seeing. And this is why I feel like this is what's happening with those moon relationships. They're healing. They're healing from the quality of looking for perfection. Perfecting is perfection. Perfecting is perfection. And the modality by which you get rid of perfection, you'll get rid of the false premise that there is perfection. Perfecting is perfection, right? Because if we are ever perfecting, then we're always doing the best that we energetically can. And when we stop bludgeoning with ourselves with the vision of what perfect is, but rather see it as the modality by which we're perpetually answering the call to what we perceive perfect to be, we are the embodiment of perfect, right? And that's what I keep on seeing. These are the moon relationships that look at each other, and this is why they see each other passionate, and they say to each other, "Do you recognize how perfect you are?" And the energy is saying, I don't feel perfect," and being like, "You're not perfect. You don't feel it because you're embodying it. Perfect energy never feels perfect because they're too busy perfecting. It's painful, right? It's painful, but it's blessed. It's a blessed position. It's blessed, but it's often hard to see within the context of the self. Is what I keep on seeing. But this is what's beautiful because they're trying to articulate to each other how beautiful they see each other constantly looking like look at them. God, look at them just constantly perfecting. God, just constantly perfecting, just constantly perfecting, and the person perfecting, going, ugh, continuing to get clarification, right? Continuing to get clarification between our Ace of Cups in combination with the Six of Swords and its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification with the Knight of Cups and its upright here. I like this. I like this spread. If you're a tarot nerd, it's a very hard, like there's a lot of alignment that's happening right now in Aquarius. So I'm not surprised to see It's a balanced spread today. And if you're someone who reads the tarot, you'll take one look at this and you'll know exactly what I mean. Okay? It's a very balanced spread. And I want to describe this too because I don't know why I have to look into it. It feels like there's some Libra energy here. I got to figure out where the Libra energy is coming from. But here's the thing about it, right? The modality by which we energetically recognize or work when we're working towards balance, right? And I keep on getting this, especially with those temperance energies. When we work towards balance, it can often be like, and I want to describe this. Healthy energy can see energy working towards balance. Unhealthy energy will see somebody energetically working towards balance and effectively like and I want to describe this. This is often like you cannot build balance when there's too much energetic ego in the way, is what I keep on hearing. And what do we mean by that? Because the modality by which I keep on hearing balance is a collaborative process, right? And why do we define that balance is a collaborative process? It's the understanding and work that we do in recognition to what we do to try to effectively bring balance to situations. And the modality by which balance is often, I keep on hearing, balance is often like underseen or underappreciated, but depended upon, right? This is often what happens in some of these temperance relationships because I keep on getting these temperance partnerships, they're frequently the balancing force in things, right? And the modality by which they often go through those experiences, but often feel the modality by which others do not recognize the space by which they themselves are trying to work towards balance. I just keep on seeing like this is the energy. These are the relationships that say to each other, I see you, right? Like the modality by which another person, even in the context by which they articulate the perception, right? Like this is the energy. I see how hard you work. I see what goes on under the surface, particularly and especially. And I keep on seeing the energy that's in temperance, that's constantly working on balance and experiencing the wound of someone seeing you perpetually working on balance and making the false premise that something is energetically easy. Nothing is easy. Everything is earned. Everything is earned and learned. And often the sound of us misconceiving something is the modality by which we make the false premise that just because something looks like it's in a state of ease, that it's easy, right? That's often energy that is working very hard towards creating a sense of balance. Continuing to get clarification between the Empress energy, the Chariot, and the Two of Wands, right? That you see that these are those energies in solitude, stepping out of their comfort zone a bit. Little bit of discomfort every day as a treat. A little bit of discomfort every day as a treat. Clarification. Boom, we got that Three of Wands. I like that, right? Every discomfort as a treat is how we build new horizons for ourselves, right? A little discomfort as a treat is how we build into new resolutions, right? Because it's the ability that allows us the context of doing something that changes our own energetic view upon something. And so this is what I keep on seeing. And this is what we talk about with like what I feels like. And this is important because I see this energy understanding that manifestation goals should not feel like something that feels like it's energetically painful to move towards, right? If you're miserable as you're moving towards a manifestation goal, there's no manifestation goal you'll arrive to that'll make you find bliss, right? But we allow for a proportionality of discomfort, right? A proportionality of discomfiture as we understand and recognize what we're working towards as we energetically get better at something, right? So I see, like I keep on hearing, and this is what we talk about, right? This is how we recognize that we're not doing something energetically indulgent, right? Because that modality or that experience of navigating, right, the space by which we are getting stronger is often the modality by which we feel weak. And so I feel like this is a lot of the energy that is coming into better harmony with their own feeling of vulnerability, right? Because the modality by which we feel vulnerable, but then we feel like we ourselves are the ones that are testing our own vulnerability, right? That is how we get stronger. And the way that another person holds our vulnerability preciously shows us the amplification of how much they care about us. while continuing to get clarification between the Chariot card, the Two of Wands, and the Knight of Cups. Can I get one card to clarify, please? Clarification coming through with the World card in its reversal. So let's talk a little bit about the World card in its reversal. Because the World card in its reversal, and I want to describe this, and we're moving back into those moon relationships. The World card in its reversal um, talks about the modality of those who have a fear-based mindset, right? Those with a fear-based mindset perpetually see the world as threat. And there's usually no sign, like there's no greater sign that you're in an unhealthy space than when you're embodying a fear-based mindset because the mind creates what it energetically sees, right? So what happens in the modality by which one occupies a fear-based mindset? You feel the anxiety of the fear in relationality to everything that you see outside. And then you feel like you need to defend against it, right? You need to become the threatening force. So this is why we articulate that the thing that we have to be most afraid of is our fear, because when we allow the fear to steer, we become the source of fear in others, right? When we allow the fear to steer, we become the threatening force. We become the force of our fear. And so this is why I see that a lot of the moon energy working through relationships, potentially even healing, right? Potentially even healing from trauma of being in relationship with someone who occupied a fear-based mindset, right? Which is often what happens because in the modality by which we do not have a handle on our fear is there to help us. But the way that our fear is helpful is that we can understand how it can be positively addressed, right? But the modality by which, right? And I feel like this is a lot of the energy that builds into the context of healing with one another. Of expressing it. And this is why I keep on seeing that these energies hold each other so dearly because another, I've never had someone be able to hold my fear before, which is the modality by which another person articulates to another the feeling of vulnerability and another person receives it without projecting upon it, right? Without feeling it as a personal slight, but is able to hold the capacity and feel the security of the self and saying, I understand that what you're expressing to me isn't an affront, that you're effectively being vulnerable to me, is what I keep on seeing. And that's why they hold each other so preciously, because they have not experienced that before. That is the shape of the trauma that they are working to release. Final card for today's spread, and these are the temperance relationships. Clarification between that Three of Wands and the World card in its reversal. Queen of Pentacles in its upright. There's a lot. There's a lot, lot, lot of feminine energy in this spread today. But let's talk about it to a certain extent because I need to point this out, right? And this is what I need to point out, right? There's something really beautiful, and I wanna describe this, right? Because I wanna explain that there's something happening here that's really beautiful, and it's happening across all of the frequencies, regardless of whether you connect to masculine, feminine, or non-binary energy, and it is building into the context of recognizing and understanding the healing that we come into as it relates to the context of being able to understand another person's energetic position, right? This is how we express love. And I need to point this out. And this is why I can't say to you, like, this is why we say, like, sometimes when you see somebody who's like, your feelings are making me feel bad. I don't like feeling these. I don't like feeling like this. I can't take this, right? Yes. Like you should feel like that is healthy. That is like that is healthy. That is healthy, right? The modality by which you see somebody experiencing something and you don't need to embody it to feel the outrage, right? The modality by which we feel something and it creates volatility in us, that's a sign that your heart works. That's a sign that your heart is working very well. You should feel like that. Empathy is important because the modality by which, right? The modality by which another person goes, you know what? You're hurting and it's really killing my vibe. The modality of someone being like, your pain is like, it's really killing my vibe. It's like really like, I gotta explain it. It's really kind of ruining like the aesthetic that I'm trying to energetically create here. Like that is indulgent. That is indulgent, right? And if your energetic spirituality does not allow you to see things, I hate to break it to you, that's not spirituality. That's delusion. That is, you want to know the difference between intuition and delusion? Intuition shows you things. Intuition is the ability to see more. Delusion is the sound of desiring to see less. And the modality by which another person tries to articulate that empathy is really kind of like putting the brakes on their own energetic journey, like the modality of saying like, "Oh, I can't. No, 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 I can't. I can't. I can't. No, I don't partake in those feelings. I don't partake in those feelings that are not mine. No. No, no, no. No, no, no. No, no, no." Right? That's not healthy. My sweetheart, right? And this is what I keep on seeing. Like this is what we start with, right? The understanding, right? The modality of experiencing things that rock us, things that are hard to see, right? Love asks us to bear witness to each other, right? And that does not mean, right? That does not mean that we crumble within the gaze of it, right? It does not mean that we crumble in relationality to feeling the modality by which we ourselves experience and cannot see it. But our ability to hold space and to hold space for one another as we navigate through difficulty, right? We can do both. We can hold the energetic standards of being able to understand the position that we ourselves are in, while also understanding and recognizing that we exist in a world that requires changing. And that is usually the sign, right? And this is why we talk about like being on a healthy spiritual journey, prepare to hurt, right? And this is the thing about it. Healthy hurt is looking at something that breaks one's heart. And what's beautiful is when something is breaking your heart, you can answer the call of that pain and be able to energetically, that's where you start. That's where you start doing something differently. That's where you start changing something. And it doesn't require us to effectively completely exhaust ourselves in that journey, but understanding, right? Understanding the energetic effort that we all do is the understanding that we all do our part in different ways. And this is what I think is beautiful right now with a lot of those relationships, right? And this is what I see with those temperance relationships, the modality by which these temperance relationships are doing the work that they need to do, right? The space by which they're working towards it. And this is what's hard about it, right? Energy that's working towards something, you will never have more projections thrown at you in the process of working, right? The modality by which another person starts, and this is what I keep on saying, the difference between energetic criticism versus critique is the difference between saying, why are you trying? Why are you doing it that way? Versus, how can I help you? Right? And this is what I see that a lot of this temperance energy is used to, right? The modality by which they're doing everything, like they're literally trying to do everything they can. And then, even in the moment by which they're doing everything they can, somebody comes towards them with a criticism instead of a critique, right? The modality of effectively seeing someone trying to do something differently and articulating upon the negative instead of the positive is often amplifying and articulating the work, right? It's experiencing another's projection, but fortifies the direction, right? Because I keep on getting it's very and often I keep on hearing energy on the sidelines of things is often the energy that criticizes. It's having the breath, having the energetic breath to articulate upon rather than being rather than putting that effort in, right? This is like effectively the shape of some of that trauma that we see that the energy is working to resolve upon, right? The modality by which we understand that when we're building towards things, we help each other up, right? We allow the space by which we uplift or we articulate upon it. But even in the context by which, right? The context by which we sometimes can define the trauma, because even in the modality by which we build forth, I keep on seeing like this is the energy that I keep on hearing, this is the energy that gave up long ago. Like this is the energy that gave up long ago in expecting credit, in knowing which way to go is what I keep on hearing, right? It's not the work that one does for the sake of effectively another seeing it, but knowing what that direction is its own gift is what I keep on hearing. Bottom of the deck on this reading, yeah, particularly with that 7 of cups in its upright. I feel like a lot of the 7 of cups that we're seeing here in its upright is the articulation, and I wanna describe this right now, like, this is the culmination of what we're feeling right now with the 7, with all of these planets in Aquarius, right? A lot of moving parts. And here's the thing about it, when we are in a healthy place, we do not harbor feelings related to others trying to have a lot of moving parts, right? If you're feeling like that right now, if you're feeling like there's a lot to do and not a lot of time to do it, welcome to this Aquarius season, especially given the fact that we've had Neptune that's moved into Aries, right? So that's hustle, 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 right? Dream faster, right? Like, dream faster. Neptune and Aries, dream faster. Can you dream a little bit faster, right? And then also working through the space that we've also got Uranus coming out of retrograde, which says like, oh, by the way, like you're like dream faster and also be very adaptable. Like dream faster, but also like be able to be very energetically adaptable. When we understand that we're all experiencing that, we can have compassion for each other, right? We don't take it personally, we take it profoundly, and we give each other I keep wondering, we give each other the benefit of the doubt in relationality to, like, working through things or giving each other the space by which one needs. Like, I keep on hearing a lot of things can be happening under the surface. It's not it's not gimme energy, it's how can I it's like, how can I help you kind of thing, right? It's the modality of being able to effectively understand and not build into, like, I keep on hearing, like and that's the thing about it, I need to stress that sometimes when we come into this, like, pre-eclipse energy, it can feel like a lot of this, like I like to describe it like, this anxious anticipatory, like, not feeling the ability to wait, right? Everybody's feeling it. Just allow the space by which we effectively navigate it, right? And we navigate it with a sense of patience and proportionality, right? And if you're feeling it, you know what I'm talking about. But I'm telling you, it's the pre-eclipse energy, right? Don't overly internalize an external process. And also don't disassociate. I'm going to tell you right now, this is not the time to be keeping your feelings under lock and key, okay? Communicate, 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 because again, it's a Pisces new moon, okay? I don't want you coming up to that Pisces new moon having all these feelings and suddenly boom, floodgate, okay? That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and receiving these messages. Just a reminder, if you'd like to book a private reading with me, it is a two-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my site. So I'd encourage you to do it there. A couple of updates before we move into personal readings today. First and foremost, thank you to everyone who participated in our recent class on the World Card. The next class we're going to be hosting is going to be on Wednesday, February 18th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. We are going to be continuing our studies into the tarot with a study of the court cards in the Sword Suite. If you would like to become a part of that tarot class program, all you need to do is head on over to my stack and become a paid subscriber. Your paid subscription to my stack is your ticket of entry into our live classes each and every month. As a paid subscriber, you will also have access to over 9 hours worth of material in the Tarot Church Library class archive. Now, it's not necessary to catch up. I'll be doing my best to give you an update on everything we've studied prior to beginning the next class. But if you wanted to join, now's a great time to join. If you wanted to catch a few of those classes before we have the next class, you'll also have access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything we've learned and studied thus far. And if you become a founding member, not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, you'll also have access to over 20 hours worth of material in the Tarot Church Library class archive. You'll also have access to receiving a complimentary mentorship class if you would choose to do so. One of the things I tried to do in these classes was make them accessible to the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. Don't let your lack of experience or your robust experience prevent you from joining us in these classes. And even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my stack, I would encourage you to follow me there to stay up to date on any new offerings or services. I also post my weekly newsletter there, which will let you know about my in-person events as well as my online live schedule, along with my mystic meditation articles, which give you updates on what we've been seeing energetically. I just wrote one recently on navigating this full moon in Leo that we just experienced. Also, I would encourage you to head over to my stack to learn more about a very special retreat that we will be hosting this August. I'd like to invite you to join me August 8th through 13th as we travel to Italy to learn more about the cards in the locationality by which the cards were first documented to be discovered. We'll be sharpening our tarot skills while understanding more the culture that allowed the tarot to be able to grow and thrive. Everyone who participates in that retreat will not only be receiving one-on-one training with me, but will also have the opportunity of receiving a complimentary mentorship class with me. Also, today is the final day to be able to pre-register if you are interested in that retreat program. So make sure that you head over. You do not need to send the full amount for the retreat today just to be able to secure your spot by putting in that deposit. And if you do so today, you'll also have a $200 discount on that retreat program. You can find all of that over on my stack as well as over on the tree that has Binks in it in my Lio. I also want to let you guys know that on top of my standard life path readings, I also offer mentorship classes. These are for any of my students seeking a more personalized educational experience with me. I take a very limited number of students for this reason, as those classes are focused on each individual's personal spiritual goals and journey work. Those classes can be purchased on an individual level or as a monthly class series, weekly or biweekly, as your schedule permits, so that you can stay more consistent on your personal journey. I'm also very happy to offer dream interpretation readings, which can be purchased per dream or as a series. If you purchase the series, I would encourage you to start to keep a dream journal, as we will meet weekly or biweekly with that journal and utilize the tarot to understand the key themes and messages coming towards you in the dream space. That said, I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and receiving these messages, and we will do this again tomorrow.